guys, Gina here, and welcome back to my channel. So this is a little different video. So I decided that when filming this video, I wanted to be as comfortable as possible, and I'm the most comfortable in bed, in my pajamas, and just comfy. So I'm going to be discussing something that you guys have asked me to talk about for quite some time, and I needed to get to a place to where I was okay with people not liking me. I needed to get to a place to where I was okay with potentially negative comments coming into the comments section, particularly pertaining to this topic, because this is a very vulnerable thing for me to open up with you guys about. So we're just gonna have a little mental health chat. So if you guys have been around on my channel for a while, you guys will know that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And if you guys do not know what bipolar disorder is, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a rundown of what it is, just in case you didn't know. So bipolar disorder, it is a mood disorder. So people with bipolar disorder symptoms include high energy, reduced need to sleep, loss of touch of reality. Depressive episodes may include symptoms of low energy, low motivation, and loss of interest in daily activities. Mood episodes last days to months at a time and may also be associated with suicidal thoughts. So I was diagnosed with this about 2 years ago. I had just moved to Virginia, and I was in a very deep depression right when my mom had left, but it was more, there was more things that were coming to play. So not only was I depressed, but I also was shopping at high extremes. So a manic shopping. I had racked up a bunch of credit cards. I wasn't sleeping. I literally would go days with not sleeping, which is not good. But when I would go days without sleeping, I would have as much energy as I would if I drank like a whole cup of coffee. So there were just some markers that were a little bit alarming to my husband and myself. I had actually gotten in a few arguments with him, and I had gotten knives from our kitchen. I don't think I've ever actually just told this to my mom, but I had gotten knives, and I was like walking around our house with like a knife in my hand, and it was really bad. And this was literally 2 years ago. So I was still on YouTube, and well, that's when my channel started to pick up just a little bit. But for those that have been around with me for that long, you guys probably would not guess that I was like that. So I went to a psychiatrist, and I was diagnosed in the office with bipolar disorder. At that point, I was not ready to go on medication because I guess was ashamed by it. And I thought that, you know what, I can go ahead and do this on my own. Like, I can go ahead and try to overcome this without being medicated. So most treatment, if you are diagnosed with bipolar disorder, you'll be diagnosed two different drugs. You'll be you would be prescribed an antidepressant, and you would be prescribed a mood, and you would also be prescribed a mood stabilizer such as lithium. So you would have those two drugs that you would take every single day. So at that point, I really didn't want to take any drugs. So I decided to go a non-medicated route. So this lasted about 3 months. So I was really strict on my diet. I was really strict on my schedule. I was really strict on my exercise routine. And I had a very strict bedtime. So most of the time when I followed all of those sequences, I did pretty well. But the issue was when, for instance, if I had gotten sick and I wasn't able to work out, or if something kept me from not being able to go to bed at a specific time, then my moods would go straight up, straight down. I wasn't able to, I guess, how do I put it? I wasn't able to process the changes in my schedule, and it made me relapse. I would freak out. I would be yelling at Chris for hours on end. I would literally be yelling for probably about a good 3-4 hours. And Granted, my kids were around during this time too, so they also experienced me being super angry all the time and yelling all the time. And then I would get off of the high of being so angry, and then I would go in a very low to where I would lay in bed and just, watch DVR TV all day. So there was a lot of extremes that were going on during that time. And it was also a really difficult time for me because I had moved to Virginia. So I didn't have any family around. I was just getting to know new people around me. And it was really difficult for me when I was first diagnosed because I had moved to Virginia, and then I was told by a psychiatrist, like, hey, you have bipolar disorder. So it was really difficult for me to open myself up to new people and say, hi, I just moved to Northern Virginia from California, and if I ever start yelling at a random, like, don't worry, like, I'm totally normal. Like, that was really difficult. So I didn't really open up about that for a while, and I opened up about it in my mom's group at my church. But it took me a while to even open up about that, because that's not really something that you start off an intro with if you have a mental illness. So it's not really something that so that's not really something that you share when you're first starting to meet people. When you go around the room and say your name and where you're from and something about you. I wasn't the person who was like, hi, my name is Gina, I'm from Southern California, and by the way, I have bipolar disorder. No, I didn't do that. So now we're about 3 months into my diagnosis, and things were just they were not okay. So I had finally broken down and said, you know what? I need to go back to the psychiatrist and I need to get put on medication. So I've been on medication for about 2 years now, and it has changed my life. Literally, it has changed my life. I am only on an antidepressant. I did not want to go on a mood stabilizer like lithium, because a lot of the side effects are like you're kind of like a walking zombie sometimes. So I did not want that. I did not want to feel like I was drugged up all day. That's something I did not want, and neither did my husband. And so, yeah, I am on a low dose of antidepressants, and combined with my antidepressant and keeping a very strict schedule does help me. But where the medication comes into play is I'm able to cope a lot better. So when my schedule is changed, I'm able to cope a lot better with it. If I don't get as much sleep one night, I'm able to cope with it. I'm just able to cope with changes a lot better now that I am on medication. So when I was pregnant with Tanner, I actually stopped taking my medication because the antidepressant I'm on is a Class C drug. So they really they can't really test on pregnant women. You can't just say, hey, we're going to get a bunch of pregnant women and test to see what happens to their babies if they're on this drug. Like, that's not how it works. So the Category C drugs, we just don't really know the overall effect of what it would do to your baby. So I decided that since I didn't want to take that risk, I was off my medication for 9 months. So that was very difficult as well. So I started to get depressed during that time. I started to have manic behaviors again, and I started to get very paranoid. Paranoia is also a symptom of bipolar disorder, and my paranoia came with people around me. So I was constantly concerned that people were mad at me. For whatever reason, I constantly thought that someone had a problem with me. My mom, my sister, my best friends, my husband, my in-laws. I was convinced everyone was out to get me, and that everyone was mad at me. That was like the constant thing that was going on for me. And that was so incredibly difficult, especially when I was pregnant with Tanner and I had all of this stuff that was thrown towards me. So I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. So my normal way I had been eating was completely changed. I moved from Virginia back to California. So environmental changes will spike mood swings and depression and mania. Like when you're changing your environment, that is a huge trigger. So that was very, very difficult for me at that time, going from Virginia back to California. But it wasn't as bad because I was coming back home. I was coming back to what I was comfortable with, what was normal for me. And I was coming back to my family and my friends. So the adjustment period wasn't as bad. And my husband and I actually fought less when we moved back to California, which is something that my husband was really shocked by, that I wasn't more upset, because I was very upset leaving Virginia. I loved Virginia. We fought about moving back to California from Virginia, but I adjusted pretty well. So a lot of you guys also asked me, Gina, like, how do you have so much energy? How are you so upbeat all the time? I would love to say that it was 100% me, because most of the time I am pretty cheery, pretty goofy, but you guys have to understand that I do take an antidepressant every single day. So usually probably about 30 minutes after I take my medication, like, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go for the day. Like, I am almost like annoying with how happy I am. So when I first started taking my dosage, I was actually on too high of a dosage, and it was a problem to where I had to talk to my doctor and say, hey, you guys are making me too happy. So it was a point to where I wasn't able to like sit in like a serious function without like laughing a little bit or not being serious. And if you've ever been to, like a funeral or a very important like meeting you need to sit into and like be serious, like that was impossible for me. Like I couldn't just sit still and just, be normal. Like I wasn't able to do that. So that was an indicator that maybe my dosage was a little too high. So I just cut down on my dosage, and everything has been fine. But I do get like my extra pep in the morning time because I'm on medication. So it definitely helps with the overwhelmingness that comes with having 3 kids and all the chaos. And it just helps me cope with it a lot better. So something that I did notice after I had Tanner is I actually didn't have any postpartum depression at all. So I had postpartum depression with Scarlett and Sawyer, but I was not medicated at those times. So I started my antidepressants back the day after I gave birth to Tanner. I started my medication again. I was able to breastfeed with it. I've since stopped breastfeeding. That I guess that could be another video if you guys are interested in why I stopped breastfeeding. But I did start taking my medication the day after Tanner was born. So I did not experience any postpartum depression. I didn't have any anxiety. When Tanner came home with the first 2, I was terrified that they were going to get SIDS. I was terrified that something was going to go wrong with them, that they were going to be sick. Like all sorts of things would go in my mind. I was really paranoid. I don't know if it's just third kid problems and I was a little bit more loosed. I hear that happens, but I think that with me being medicated with my antidepressants, I think it really helped. But I also suffer from high anxiety. So this is not a symptom of bipolar disorder, but it's common for those who are diagnosed with bipolar disorder to also have anxiety. So I know what my triggers are when it comes to anxiety, and that is something that's really important with any mental illness you have. You need to know what your triggers are. So for me, large crowds instantly give me anxiety. The first date I went on with my husband, we went to Santa Monica Pier. And if you guys don't know Santa Monica, it is a very crowded place. So I was very nervous when we were walking through the Santa Monica Pier that I actually had to like grab onto his arm. And I said, I know this is our first date and I'm already grabbing onto your arm, but I am terrified of crowds. So I'm just going to go with it. So we joke about that all the time. But my husband understands that I hate crowds. But I shared that with him on our first date. I said, hey, this makes me nervous. I think part of the reason why I don't like crowds is because the news terrifies me. So every single time, I turn the news on and there's been, another terrorist incident here, terrorist incident there, I am constantly like terrified I'm going to be in a crowded place, whether if it's going to be like a sporting event or an amusement park or something where there's a lot of people and all chaos is going to break out. So anytime I'm in any type of big, like, crowded area, I'm like surveying the area to find like the best exit strategy. Even in Target, like, I ask myself, like, what would I do if like someone came and had, you know, bad intentions in Target? Like, where would I go? Where would I hide? Like, this stuff goes in my head every single time I'm out and about. It just terrifies me. So that gives me anxiety. Having large volumes of stuff everywhere, so like clutter, makes me very nervous. It makes me very anxious. So if you see my cleaning videos, sometimes I've gotten some comments saying, why are you cleaning a clean house? It's because most of the time my house is clean. I think sometimes you guys might catch my house when it's not clean, and I have it in a video, but that, you know, that's just life. But for the majority of the time, my house is clean, because if it's not, I get anxious. And when I get anxious, that's when my mood swings start to hit harder. So if I am very anxious a lot of the day, most of the time, I'm probably going to have a manic episode. So that can be a jumble of things. So it could be, I could get really depressed after it. I could get really angry after being anxious all day. So it's just like a domino effect. So with me knowing what my triggers are in terms of anxiety, it helps me then cope with my bipolar disorder as well. So anxiety and bipolar kind of goes hand in hand. So also something that happens here and there with bipolar disorder is I get highly paranoid. So how do I explain this to you guys? So my paranoia comes with people. So my paranoia is people are mad at me, or people are talking about me, or people are all sorts of stuff, which sounds silly because, I mean, I'm sure people do talk about me, but, you know, we won't go there. But in terms of my paranoia, it's, oh, so-and-so's mad at me, so-and-so's angry at me. Like, if someone didn't like respond to me, or if someone like unfollowed me from Instagram or something like that, it was like, oh my God, this person hates me. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, it would kind of just like spiral from there. Or, oh, she didn't comment on my photo, or she didn't respond back to my text message. I would instantly think like, oh my God, she hates me, she's mad at me, whatever. And that could be the case for sometimes, but not all the time. Like, Gina, come on, some people are busy. Or maybe people just don't want to see all of your coupon content, which is totally fine, because if you see my Instagram, it like blows up with couponing content. So that is also a symptom of bipolar disorder. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys, because you guys have asked me to open up about this, and I really needed to get to a place to where, you know what, I don't really care what people may think, if it's like a negative opinion about me or what I'm putting out in this video. It really doesn't bother me. If anything, I'm hoping this video helps someone. I really thought that I would maybe get emotional in this video, but you guys have to understand that it takes a lot for me to get that emotional now, because I am on medication. So I find myself like, I don't break down and cry as much. When I am on an antidepressant, I don't cry as much. So yeah, I thought I would be, you know, maybe upset in this video or crying in this video, but I've been able to keep it together, and maybe it's my medication, or maybe I don't exactly know why I'm able to keep this together, but I'm becoming very vulnerable with you guys. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I really needed to get to a place to where I didn't care what people thought of me. I really needed to get to a place to where a mean comment wasn't going to spiral me and cause me to stumble. I really needed to get to a place to where I only care about what God thinks of me. So that is definitely a place where I'm at in my life. And if you are not there, I will pray you get there, because when you are not caring what other people think about you, your life is 100 times better. So you guys have asked, like I said, you guys have asked me to open up about this, and I have no shame. This is not something that I am shameful of anymore. I was embarrassed about it when I was first diagnosed, but this is a part of me. This is how God made me. So if I can use my struggles to help one of you watching this video, then it was all worth it. So you know, the next time that you're maybe joking around with someone and maybe saying, oh, so-and-so is crazy, or maybe so-and-so has a mental illness. I was so upset. I was watching a video not too long ago. I think it was about a month ago, and someone jokingly said, oh, well, maybe so-and-so has a mental illness. To me, that really hurt my heart so much, because us as influencers and content creators, we really need to be careful with what we are saying on our channels, because you never know who is watching. So many people, I mean, just looking, 3 million people are diagnosed with bipolar disorder each year. So if that's just bipolar disorder, like imagine how many other people are also suffering from depression, anxiety. There's a long list of different mental illnesses that someone can be diagnosed with. And for me, if someone is watching my video, I don't want my video to cause them to stumble, or I don't want my video, something I say, to make them feel less about themselves, because you never know who is watching. Like someone, for all I know, my next door neighbor suffers from depression. For all I know is the neighbor to the left of me suffers from high anxiety. Like you just never know where people are at in life. You never know how someone's day is. You never know what someone else is struggling with. So if anything, I would urge you guys just to be a little bit more aware of the things that you're saying and just how you are treating people, because it can really change a person's day if you're nice to them. So the next time, you know, maybe you're pissed off at the cashier at CVS, and maybe she didn't do your coupon right, or something happened at the register, instead of giving her kind of like the, you know what we do, the whole, I'm going to call corporate. Maybe instead of that, just say, you know what, I know this isn't your fault. I'm going to call customer service, like have a good day. Because you never know what your cashier is dealing with also. So I thought I would just go ahead and add that couponing reference into it, because you never know. And I also want to take this time to thank my amazing friends and my incredibly supportive family for sticking through with me and being patient with me. My couponing friends are amazing. I can have a terrible day and every single one of them are checking up on me, sending me pictures to make me laugh, and they never make me feel like I am crazy. And for that, I am incredibly grateful for every single one of them. And I also am incredibly grateful for the husband that I have. He is very supportive and he is just amazing. So babe, if you're watching this video, I also want to thank you for being so amazing. And I have fantastic parents and in-laws, and they understand. So that is also something that is very important, is make sure that you have a support system. If you are diagnosed with any type of mental illness, having a support system is key. Even if you don't have, you know, your parents around, or maybe you don't have a significant other, there are support groups. You can join church groups. You can go to your county's website. 2018 is now a good time to be dealing with a mental illness, because 20 years ago, you had symptoms like me and you were just put into a psych ward. And nowadays things are a lot better. And I am so incredibly grateful that I'm also back in the state of California, because the state of California takes mental health very seriously. So if you are at all suffering with any type of mental illness, maybe you think you're depressed, maybe you think you have anxiety, maybe you think you have a mood disorder, contact your doctor. If maybe you don't have health insurance, you can still contact your county, you can contact your state. There are benefits to help you out. So I'll go ahead and leave a link below for some resources if you need some help. And I'm also always here via Instagram and DM, and also email. I've taken a step back from Instagram and Facebook because it's caused me to stumble a little bit, which I will get into another video. But I'm also available via email. If anyone ever needs to talk, I am always here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please share if you know someone who is also struggling with a mental illness. Please feel free to share this video, and I will talk to you guys all later. Bye.